Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Molly, and today we have one of the most fun interviews ever. We're here with Lucas at the
Loveland Living Planet Aquarium.
Loveland Living Planet Aquarium in Salt Lake, and I am so excited because this is a place that not only focuses on the animals and the fish, they have a plant part of it. So I'd love to hear you tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. So I am the horticulture manager here, and I've worked here for about 4.5 years. And with our collection of plants, we have almost 700 different species. Now that includes our tropical collection, some of the habitats in there with the animals, as well as our big South American exhibit. But out here on the gardens, on the Rio Tinto Kennecott Plaza Gardens, we have quite a few native species and really great adapted species for Utah. And so, we found that all of the animals in their beautiful habitats that they have do so much better when there are actual real plants.
So you do real plants inside too?
You sure do, yeah. There are very few in the entire inside there that you see of all the different plants that are actually fake. So
now we're not going to go inside and look at the inside
Correct.
plants,
Yeah.
but we are going to focus on some of your waterways plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. So let's kind of look around and show us what you have.
Sure, I mean, we can start right here if you want. Now,
Absolutely.
A lot of people say water-wise, but you guys got all this grass here. We have over half an acre of grass on this side here. Now, part of it is when we have over 1 million patrons a year, that's a lot of foot traffic. Now, today, granted, it's nice and mild, which is great. But we understand that using water in a high desert is very important, and turf, it does have a function. And so we've tried to make sure that the kind of grass that we use, we got it from Biosod. They have very extremely drought tolerant mixes, and it's even certified with the highest level of certification for drought tolerance. It's a mix. It's a rye and a bluegrass mix, but it definitely takes a lot less water, but can still be quite green, as you can see. So.
Yeah, it is absolutely gorgeous, and it's in a useful area. When I go out and talk to people about lawns and how to water them, you can get lawns like this down to being watered twice a week.
Yeah.
And it just depends on how you treat it at the beginning of the year. I don't know how you treat it to make it more drought tolerant, or if you do anything to it, but I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so we do a lot of different things. Again, the grass maintenance, I have a bachelor's degree in plant production, and I've been a certified arborist for 14 years now, but turf is a whole nother world. I love the woody plants and the forbs and other things like that, but part of it is understanding how to manage the grass, growing it a little bit longer, because the higher the plant, the more dense the roots are going to be as well, and it also shades it from the heat of the sun. This is a south and west exposure. Man, the sun here is so hot. But part of it is also dialing in the amount of water and sprinklers you get. So you can be conservative in this desert that we live in and still have lush green lawns. It doesn't have to be watered too much. Part of it is understanding how grass grows. So with our new building, and I don't know if you can see it over here, you've probably seen it from the freeway. It's very cool. We're actually working on a program of recycling as much of our gray water, our irrigation water, as we can, and some of the water that they take out of our freshwater tanks to do the watering on the plaza here.
So this lawn area is water conservation still.
It absolutely is. We do our best to make sure that we're very responsible with this.
So let's look around and see what you have.
Let's head over to the Zen Garden over here. There's some cool stuff. But we wanted people to kind of slow down in this garden here, so you can walk through it, and it helps you think, because this whole plaza, we do try and push the whole conservation thing. So again, I have Zelkovas, also a Japanese tree. The pagoda tree, which is also a Chinese and Japanese tree.
Those are an underused, really good tree.
I really think they are. They're lovely. They're the last tree in the whole state to flower. They flower like late July, early August. So we do have bamboo. We do have some Japanese forest grass that takes a little bit of shade. This is an Isla Gold tansy. So again, fun. Yeah, they're super drought tolerant. In fact, they start to show up in other places too, because the seeds like to jump the fence, as it were. But this here is one of my favorite things, and I wish there were more people propagating it. This is a Rocky Mountain juniper, so it's native to Utah, but it's It's a cultivar that weeps. It's called Tolson's Blue Weeping Juniper, and they get about 25 feet tall. There's a lovely specimen up at the Cactus and Tropicals up in Salt Lake. They have one outside, and it's just beautiful. Most of these species here are pretty tough, and ones that you can actually, push a little bit, and they do quite well. That we find a lot of the sweat bees and a lot of the little teeny bees that are native here to Utah just going to town on
Tell
us.
me about
They
the bees,
love it.
because you were talking to me about bees here and how many varieties.
Yeah, so Utah is home, believe it or not, to almost 900 species of bees, which
No
is
wonder I see
unreal.
so many in my yard.
There's so many different kinds. Well, and what's funny is I was looking it up. If you go to the eastern seaboard, that's more than the entire eastern seacoast, like just here in Utah. Different species of bees.
So we need to. So what do you plant so that you can attract them in?
Well, again, a lot of it is the flowers that they know well. I mean, you can get some, and we'll look at the Utah gardens later. But there's helenium and tansy and echinacea and rudbeckia. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of things that they tend to like. Yarrow is another one as well. Again, all of these are super tough. Put them in, and just once they're established, you forget about them.
So your guests here are more than just the people.
Absolutely. No, and part of the big push on this was to make sure that this was something that was beneficial for the local pollinators. We also have a lot of animals that have showed up. Again, you simulate nature and everything shows up. You get a full diversity of everything. We do. So this next one over here is kind of my favorite. This is the sensory garden. So it's chock full of stuff. There's your gumi right there. Look how big it is.
Okay, so this plant I've been wanting to see.
So
yeah, this is a gumi
Elaeagnus is a comitata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Related to
Multiflora.
silverberry and
Russian olive.
and
actually.
Russian olive.
So
Edible.
the fruit on it was delicious. It's bright and tangy. There's one single seed, just like all the Elaeagnus has, but it was very good. In fact, I had to beat the birds to most of them. Otherwise, they just ate the rest, and that's the problem. I know they do.
And then you've got right next to it a beautiful little bed layer for the bees and for the scent.
Yep, and this is a fun one here. This is a crepe myrtle.
Yes.
It's a dwarf crepe myrtle. It's called the Infinitini series. And again, it does have radiant heat from this boulder here, but actually it's just similar to those hardy hibiscus where you just wait for it to wake up. Sometimes it takes all the way until you get to July before it starts to put on buds, but it's quite lovely, and it flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers. So, but yeah, look at these bees. I mean, here's another one that's not native, but they sure love it. This is Caryopteris, the blue mist or bluebeard. And now these are our honeybees. So we actually have a couple of beehives here. Actually, there are 4 beehives. 2 of them are on, if you go into our Utah gallery, with the river otters, we have beehives in the back there, but behind our building as well, we have some beehives just to keep things happy.
Yeah, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous place, and you also have, this looks like lemon balm, but
It is, yeah. Melissa officinalis. I love mints in general. I think that's kind of my favorite. Now, most people don't realize that mints also include rosemary and oregano and thyme and sage. All those are all actually a mint. I've got raspberries grown in and out there. So part of this, when we do this tour, is, we'll have people come in and they get to do it. They get to smell. But again, it's not just like the bright mints and stuff. It's also the feel of this cupressus here, this weeping cedar. It feels really nice, and it smells, if I'm being honest, now this ages me too, but it smells like the wood pencils that we had growing up in school. Because it's not like the little, it smells amazing.
You said a little bit earlier something about plant tours. Do you guys do plant tours?
Not yet officially. So we're working on actually making an official paid plant tour, and that would be a sensory tour for the most part, which is this garden here. Stuff to smell, stuff to taste and touch, and you can take little pieces home with you as well. But that's in the works. It hopefully will happen next spring. So we're pretty excited about it. So, but we got a lot of irons in the fire because we're building a new building, and you can see it a little better here. So this is what we call the Science Learning Center. It's a 110,000 square feet building. It's 5 stories tall in the very highest point of it. And we're going to have a lot of great interactive exhibits that are brand new, a lot more educational space for classrooms, for our education programs. We have a large ballroom, but my favorite part of all of it is we have a huge open air cloud forest exhibit.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
It's going to be spectacular. So it's like our South American exhibit, but a lot more natural light and quite a bit taller. So there'll be free flying birds as well. A lot of my really cool plants I'm very excited about. We're going to put in there. And then some cool animal habitats that are just on the next level. So our clouded leopards, which are some of my favorite animals here, get a new space over here, and it's a lot bigger, and it's indoor and outdoor. We can take a peek at this cool garden here. So this is what we call the coral garden.
You have cactus.
Now, I got to give a shout out to my predecessor here, Nate Abbott. He is kind of the demigod of cactus. Like, he knows more about cactus than anybody you'll probably ever meet. But this was his baby. We designed this to have cactus and succulents and Utah natives to make it feel like it's actually coral. And it's so funny that things that grow in the desert and then things that live underwater, they do have some morphological similarities.
I had not even thought about that.
It's so fun. And so we decided, we added a lot of Eudolite here. We had these cool little pockets that were cast concrete, and the cactus seemed to really like it. We've got some sedum and some Delosperma up front here. We also dropped a bunch of penstemon. I think that's Palmeri, I believe, is the really drought tolerant kind. They call it the desert snapdragon. And we have some Yucca rostrata in the back there that will eventually trunk up and look really cool. But you know my favorite plant in this whole garden here? It's up there against the corner. It has a sign and everything. It's a Joshua tree.
I've only seen one other one, and that was, well, maybe two. I think there's two at BYU.
It's pretty cool. So this one is done very well. The first winter it struggled a little bit, but we put so much drainage on the soil below it, as well as having a lot of soil it can anchor into. Plus it's got the radiant heat from the foot of this beautiful structure, and then all this reflected heat from the concrete out here.
It's got the perfect spot.
It is very happy right there, and it'll be there for ages and ages. But my favorite part about why it's right there, so I don't know if you know the original owners of this structure.
No,
So this came from the band U2.
Oh, is that what this is? I've always wondered.
And we
as I
named
drive
her
by.
Eco, but they called it the Claw, and they toured all over the world. And in my personal opinion, U2's best album is Joshua Tree.
Oh, this is perfect.
So this is a nod to U2, but Joshua Tree is also a native to Utah, and the common name actually came from the Utah pioneers. So here's another one of my favorite plants here that I had to special order in at the time, and I've seen a few more in here and there. But this right here, we had to trim her back. She's got a little sign and everything. This is Lady Banks. So it's actually a variety of rose. It's a climbing rose, but it's thornless.
Oh, how nice.
And it's a cluster yellow flower that is spectacular. I learned this when I was in college, and I've always been in love with it ever since. We had to trim it back. Our goal is ultimately to have a very huge archway here that she just climbs over and takes over the whole thing. And so when you walk in here, it's like a portal into this room of ornamental spots. So
yeah. Oh my word, look how pretty this is. Oh, and my favorite birch leaf spirea.
yeah, which is a native. They find some.
No wonder it does so well.
There are some birch leaf all through the Rocky Mountains.
I did not even know that. So that is, wow. I can include those in my
there's
designs
a lot
now.
of
I can say
etymology and back and forth,
yeah.
and they say, well, it's not actually the birch leaf because those are only like a North Asian variety, but they actually are.
So let's talk about natives versus non-natives versus native cultivars.
Great. So in a second, we'll probably go over to our Utah native garden, and so if you want to be hardcore, you can get the same like perfect genus and species, native that you want, and that works really well. However, a lot of really great natives aren't being propagated. Nobody grows them. Perennial favorites, they're hard to propagate, exactly, and you don't get a good sustainable seed source because you don't want to harvest it from the wild. And there are certain places like Conservation Restoration place up in southern Idaho. Perennial favorites, there's a place over in High Mountain Gardens over in Colorado. They'll have certain government contracts where they can harvest responsibly certain wild populations. But other than that, it's hard to find. Certain things, like, nobody grows them really. And because they're hard to produce, then they decide, we'll just not do that because I can't make money off of that, right? A lot of these operations are commercial operations.
Yes, and they have to make money.
They got to make money. That's what their business is. However, there's a lot of really cool ways to get around that. So you go genus and species, and then they have a cultivated variety of that is readily available. You'll be like, oh, well, I can never find this and this and this. Well, actually you can, but here's like this cultivated variety. And most cultivated varieties have the same benefits, and sometimes they're even a little bit tougher than the actual official 100% natives.
Yes, I like that because I'm all for natives. I think natives are very important, but for the reasons that you talked about, I'm not a native hardcore person.
And that's the thing. You can do native adjacent. You can do things that are very naturalized. Now you got to be careful how far you go with that, and that's okay. It just depends on your philosophy. But the number one thing is figure out where things come from. Like I have plants here from all over the world. Like we have this really cool cactus we passed up. It's a teeny one. It's a taro cactus, and they're from South America. But because of where it grows in Patagonia, it's kind of the same climate as here. So it works really well. But again, understand your plants, like do some research and you'll find there's a lot of really cool options. And Utah native doesn't have to look like a desert because we got a lot of cool climates here. So again, this corner here with all the sensory garden, we got a little fig that's putting on a bunch of fruit. We have hardy kiwis behind it up on the trellis. Yeah, they're doing really well. And I'm hoping to get them some lateral growing space because that's when they start flowering. Yeah. And you just missed all the hardy hibiscus here, but... Yeah,
it looks like yours are a little bit further.
They've come and gone.
So there's the hardy kiwi, there's your little fig. And I like that because you can incorporate some of these things that are a little less drought tolerant into a drought tolerant landscape.
Sure.
And you also have to remember that the establishment is important.
It really is, and that's the thing. Even things that are just from here, native, unless you're growing it from seed, it's gotta have a period of establishment, because if you got it from a nursery, it's used to however the nursery watered it. Even if it's a cactus, even if it's like a yucca, it's been used to their like every day or every other day watering situation, and so you got to get it used to how you're going to water it, whether you have like your drip system or sprinklers set up or you're going to hand water it. It's got to get enough root growth into there so that it can do what it was meant to do.
And you can slowly cut it back. Yeah. Yep. I love this. Absolutely gorgeous.
Here's one of my sneaky favorite plants that I think is fun. You'll like it. We've got some Bastiu bananas over here. And this is the third year these guys have come back.
So you've got them nice and protected?
Yep. Again, they're on the back side here. A little bit of shade protection.
Do you dig them up? Do you cover them?
We just mulch them up and they do fine. In fact, with this big guy here, you get a, now the winds kind of beat them up a little bit, but we get a tomato cage and we cut off so you have still a bit of the trunky and you just mulch it all the way up in there. So.
Yeah, you can grow. Now these are not the fruiting bananas.
No,
correct?
that rope that was around the coral garden, that's actually made from these bananas.
Really?
So if you ever see hemp rope that's produced and it says Manila hemp, it's from Bastiu bananas. They're called the fiber banana for a reason. All right, so let's go into the Utah native stuff. It's my favorite. So we've got, as you can see here, there's a really bushy desert 4 o'clock that we have to trim back every couple of weeks because even more. This is out of control how big it is.
And really requires almost no water.
Nah, and we had some sagebrush planted over here, which you think, oh yeah, sagebrush, they're tough as nails. And this desert 4 o'clock choked it out. So it's fighting fire with fire, and they're pushing pretty hard. But yeah, so this is Agastache rupestris. This variety is called Apache Sunset, I believe. Okay. But the rupestris is native to the south parts of Utah, and they're just a hummingbird favorite. If you like having hummingbird feeders at home, throw them away and plant one of these, and you'll have hummingbirds for the rest of your life. And you won't have to change the sugar water every couple of days or every day just to be responsible.
And I think they're happier with stuff like this.
Oh, they love it. Yeah, I have one of these exact ones in my front yard, and hummingbirds are there every morning and every evening. Yep. So, and then you have the wild Agastache here, which is known as horse mint, but this is the one you find up in the mountains and down into the deserts as well. This one I did not plant. It plants itself, but they're kind of fun too.
And you could buy them in the nurseries. This is like, I think here in Utah, this is like one of the truest of the native landscaping plants because it's all over the hills.
Yeah, and we're getting really close to the flowers starting. I mean, it's in the aster family.
Gorgeous, gorgeous flowers.
But just the whole thing is just covered in yellow. And honestly, once you get them established, you just forget about it, and then they show up in places you didn't want. So, another one of my favorites, you can see it flowering back there. That's a fern bush.
Oh,
that is a Utah native. They're
one that
semi-evergreen. It's Chamabediarum millefolium. The leaves look like yarrow, and the flowers are just this mild sweet. It's like roses and honey. It's just delicious. They're in the rose family, but I have one in my front yard at home, and they're just delightful.
So it does okay in your landscaped area? 'Cause
Yeah.
I've been wondering.
Well, you can see there's a whole bunch along this fence line here. They're just all the way across down through there. There's a whole bunch of them. So, and they are also a bee favorite, and all kinds of bees, like our cute little native. What's the word? The bumblebees, the short ones with like the orange backside there. They're so cute. They fall asleep in the fern bush at home.
I love it. So it's a home and food.
Yep. Now here's one that is arguably native, but arguably not. But it's one of my favorites, and there are fewer people growing it.
Chocolate flower.
Yeah, this is Berlandiera lyrata, and those cute little red-orange flowers on there smell just like chocolate. It is the weirdest thing, and it's native to like southwest Colorado into like New Mexico, and some parts of it, because it is a very effective seed spreader, has spread into parts of Utah. So it's native adjacent.
I like that, native adjacent.
Yeah, but it smells spectacular. Like,
oh, I love these.
when we get our summer camps and the kids come through here, that's one of the things that we always have to smell. But what's funny is the ones that look like this don't smell like anything.
So it's the little
It's those little mini flowers that actually are doing the fragrance. So, and by the time, on a hot day, by the middle of the day, those are all gone. Because the pollinators, our cool little native bees, are only active early in the morning for this. So, they're all specialized.
Okay, and you've got some sumac back here.
Yep, your big old, smells so good. The skunk brush, they call it, which
It
I don't think
does
it
not
smells
smell
bad.
like skunk.
I grew up in southern Utah, and we had these all over in the mountains there. They're fun. But for the fruit lovers, the fruit on them is pretty delicious. You can actually eat it fresh if it's not fully, like if it's at a certain rate. There's a lot of malic acid on it.
So can you eat the fruit off of these also?
Yeah,
Because I knew you could do it off the taller, more invasive sumacs.
Right. Yeah, no, these ones you can do as well. And they do that same, like where you make the pink lemonade kind of drink. They're pretty good. So.
Oh, that's good to know. And then this little guy, is this?
That is Linum lewisia.
Oh, this is
blue flax.
blue flax. So it's all done, getting ready to spread its seeds.
Yep. Yeah, it's got so many seeds there. You see those cute little, they look like little bugs on my hand there.
Yeah.
But this one also will self-seed and spread and spread and spread and spread.
Yes.
And it has a cousin that they turn into linen.
And this one's a Mount Mahogany, right?
It is, yeah, one of my favorite shrubs of all time.
And I actually live at the base of Mount Mahogany,
There
the
you
mountain.
go. It is actually,
And it's covered in these.
well, and the thing is, it's actually one of the longest lived shrubs on the planet. It's not technically a tree, it is a shrub because it branches multi-trunk at the base, even with a single trunk. But it'll live for, I think they say the oldest one, which I think is here in Utah, I'm not positive, but I think it is like 1,800 years old. And that's a shrub.
You've got to be kidding. See, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I think it's up in Logan.
Yeah.
So, and this is one of my favorite local natives. Remember we looked at that cool weepy tree in the Zen Garden? That is what it looks like in the wild. This is a species type non-cultivar Juniperus scopulorum. This is a Rocky Mountain juniper. And I've told people that when I die, that's what I want put on my gravestone, or on top of me, because like it's basically invincible, and it'll be pretty, and you can have shade year round. So this side here, we go towards more of like the mountain meadow feel. You got some conifers on the edge. These are the white fir, and then just tons of flower. Well, part of it is we've actually put this on a slope, so we have some natural drainage built in. Otherwise, no, they don't like the look. These are a subalpine tree onto a full-on alpine, so they love like 6,000 to like 9,000 feet. That's where they just thrive. And they love that drain. So So that's part of why they've actually done okay here, because this whole thing is on quite a bit of an edge here. We have a drain set up in there and over here. So I've been pleasantly surprised that they've done so well.
Yeah, they don't. There's no burn on them at all.
They're
They're really
super
beautiful.
happy. And what's funny is all three of these are white fir, but they all look like different trees.
Yes.
So
I thought they were blue spruce for a second. I thought, no, that's not the needles. Let's look at the needles.
This is one of my favorite native flowers.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
This is Retivita. That originally was called Mexican hat, but it's a prairie coneflower. And they are so easy to propagate too. If you get a healthy one,
Oh my!
look at all those seeds. And I actually do propagate them. I'll just kind of throw them out wherever. But that's the other one that just, I don't know if you can see it. That's Helenium.
Oh, that's...
And those are native, and they're a late summer flower into fall, which is fun because you got to push that limit where you've got like some stuff going here, some later, and those will flower and flower and flower from like late July, maybe early August until it freezes really. So the other Utah garden I have here is our mountain stream. So we have a waterfall, stream, and a pond. One of my favorite Utah trees here is the water birch, which is Betula occidentalis. So not the river birch, which has the cool exfoliating bark on it, which is native out east and up to Canada. But this is the water birch that has kind of the coppery colored bark.
And I see those at Provo Canyon a lot.
Yeah, they're like a riparian species. They grow right along the riverbed, just like a cottonwood or some of the ash trees that grow there.
So tell us about aspens and why they should not be in urban yards.
Well, and that's the thing. Aspens, even though it's Utah's state tree, that is a subalpine tree. They love high elevation, 6,000 to 10,000 feet. They're just happy as can be. But here in the valley, where most people in Utah live, they're not adapted for it.
Well, and if you look at the mountains and watch, I always love watching the fall color because you can tell which ones are the aspens.
Yeah,
and they are on the north-facing slopes. They're never on the south-facing slopes.
No, they're on the north or the east.
Yeah, north or the east, where they can get a little more water. The snow, because they'll get full sun there.
Yeah,
the snow
and here's the thing. They're a clonal organism. They like to reproduce through rhizomatous spreading like your lawn grass does, but it's a tree. So putting it in any place unless it's the back 40 of your pasture.
Yeah, and even there it probably won't survive because your back pasture probably is bone dry.
Right. If you want a lovely tree like that, plant a Himalayan birch. Beautiful trunk, beautiful things. They're adapted to the heat for the most part, at least more than an aspen is. And it has a very similar look to it. So anyway.
Right plant, right place.
Yep, absolutely.
There's your showy milkweed.
Yeah, so we actually have been working on a project to try and reintroduce, and we have, I think, we're at 20 now, chrysalises. I think that's the plural for chrysali, I don't know, of monarch butterflies inside. We've been feeding them off of this milkweed, but we actually even out in our parking lot have a lot of milkweed we've allowed to grow in between spaces because Utah is actually a pretty important trail for the monarchs coming up from Mexico or down from Canada, depending on what time of year they are. And so we want to make sure that we have things for them to eat, and potentially they'll come back here year after year. We've seen a few here and there, but now we're going to actually release them right here. So, but we've been growing them for quite a while. We have some eggs that we hatched, and the caterpillars, man, if you ever get a chance, it's really fun. Do it the right way, but they eat so much. It's unreal. If we can see them all, but we have 3 native species of maple in Utah, and I've got all 3 here, which is fun. So obviously your box elder, which is a maple. Most people don't remember that it is a maple. Acer negundo.
And there's some pretty varieties.
Yeah, they're nice. This one's Sensation. It's the male cultivar. Was actually found by Warren Carnifex up in a place I used to live in, Idaho. And then we got your big tooth, which is the western sugar maple cousin. And that's the bright, 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 awesome fall colors that are my favorite in Utah. It's behind the aspen. You can't really see it. There's a couple of them. And then the other one that's actually really hard to grow Generally, you just see it up in the mountains. Is the Rocky Mountain maple. So it's Acer glabrum, and they like shade. They like, so I have it behind this this big kind of grotto setup. But I had 3 that I got. I think it was from Progressive Plants. I'm pretty sure is where we got them. That I was like, cool, this is fun. So we have one, you can see it up on the edge there, one right here, and the other one died. But it's like a big shrubby maple. They'll get 30 feet tall. But just like the aspens you were talking about, they grow on the north side. On the east side, they'll grow in really draws where there's lots of extra water, or underneath as an understory plant. And you can find them up in the mountains here, and you're like, oh, it's a maple, but it doesn't look like the big tooth. So, it has the classic 3-lobed leaf there. But they also have a very nice fall color. So, your Mahonia here.
2 that just really actually go together. 3 that go together.
Yeah, isn't that fun? So this is our fruit season for our native oaks here. So this is Quercus gambellii. I love acorns. I just think they're the cutest thing. Now what's fun is oaks actually will naturally hybridize, especially if they're closely related, because they're wind pollinated. And so you'll get these cool hybrids, like it's a bur oak and an English oak, or a gamble oak and a bur oak. And you grow the acorns, and then they breed true to whatever that cool hybrid is. And sometimes they're a little bit one way or the other. So we bought all these when we originally installed this as gamble oaks. So there's one over there, you can see it on the other side of the choke cherry, and there's one right there in the front side of it. And all 3 of them are very different. The leaves are just a little off, but it's the acorns you can always tell, because acorns will tell you exactly what it is. If you're trying to ID an oak, look for the acorns. They're so much fun. You can actually eat them too. You have to cook them down, but the acorn meal is actually really, we made pancakes out of it before.
And then here's another edible native one.
Yeah, Mahonia. Now, a lot of people are saying Mahonia is now berberis. They want it to be a barberry because they're in the same family. They're actually related.
And then behind it is another edible, native, not native.
Yeah.
Native adjacent.
Right, exactly.
So
this is a genus and species native. Prunus virginiana, and you can see a really large one over there. But this cultivar goes purple in the summer, and it was found up in Canada, which is why they call it the Canada red chokecherry. However, Prunus virginiana, you can walk up in any mountain canyon here in Utah, you will find them everywhere. And the fruit actually does way better in a higher elevation. So if you've got one at your house, and it's much later, if you got one at your house, you're like, well, it flowers, but there's no fruit ever. I want the fruit. It's because they liked the cold. We had a cold enough winter this year that I have one in my backyard covered in fruit. It's a cold chilling hour because they're a zone 2, so they got to have, fruit that lives in temperate climates has a certain amount of chilling hours required for it to be reproductively viable. Some apples, you'll never get fruit on it if it doesn't have a certain amount of winter cold hours, which is why they've developed a lot of different ones over in California, because it never gets cold enough. But choke cherries are one of those where they have to have a certain amount of cold, which is why you'll always see fruit up in the mountains, but sometimes in the valley, not so much.
Yeah, I love this. You have done such a beautiful job.
Thanks.
It's absolutely gorgeous. You showed me a few of your employees. So how many people does it take to keep this place looking nice?
Well, it's a big team effort. I have 3 other full-time people additional to myself, which is great because we, as you can see, we've got a lot to take care of. And we haven't even looked at the stuff inside either. So.
So you do, so that your team does everything inside and outside?
Well, if it's a plant, it's ours. Yep. Unless it's underwater, then we consult, but we just leave it be. But all the stuff out in the parking lot, all the plants in with the animals, that's us. So.
Well, very beautiful. Well, thank you so much for letting me come and look at this and telling us all about it.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys are doing amazing work. Now, what I want to say is, this is a business. Mm-hmm. Your business isn't the business of plants, but you guys have focused on bringing in the natives, bringing in the wildlife, and just improving this area.
Yeah, we like to make sure that people can know. Again, our main mission is to educate people about Earth's diverse ecosystems, but Utah is one of those diverse ecosystems. We have a whole gallery dedicated to just Utah native fish and river otters and cool reptiles and other things that are from here. And now we also have a lot of cool plants to show off. So
how hard do you think it would be for just a regular business to go waterways?
I think with a little bit of planning, not as hard as they think. A lot of times, again, the conception is that when it's water-wise, you got gravel, and there's a yucca, and maybe some other like random deserty looking things, and hopefully that works, you know. But there's a broad. I mean, you saw our lawn,
Yeah,
and that is still technically water-wise. We track our water, and again, we're trying to use like the most drought-tolerant, functional turf grass that is out there right now. And again, you still got to be water-wise in the way that you plant stuff, but if you say, well, this is what I want, it's a business saying, I want it to feel flowery and lush and whatever else, you can do that. So
and still be water wise.
yeah, it's not as hard as you think. So
Okay, well, definitely, especially if you're a business owner, look into it. See if you can, even change one little area to be more water wise.
and if you're out here at the aquarium, come ask for Lucas, and I'm happy to chat with you about it. So
I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden-wise adventure.